The Metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross-Friedman, founder and CEO of Super Social, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome to Into the Metaverse. I'm Yon, and joining me today is Itamar Benedy, co-founder and CEO of Anzu. Anzu is an in-game ad solution for mobile, PC, console, and Metaverse platforms. Founded in 2017, their in-game ads help advertisers reach audiences in a non-disruptive and engaging way. Itamar, we're going to unpack what exactly that means. Anzu features a patented 3D ad tracking engine, and they were the first to bring viewability measurement in-game. They partner with trusted ad tech vendors, and they have become the preferred in-game advertising partner for brands and agencies worldwide. Like me, Itamar is an Israeli-born entrepreneur who now lives in the US. Itamar, so great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. How are you, Yon?
I'm great. I'm so excited. So much is happening. So first of all, congratulations, because you guys just completed a new fundraising, a Series B with the size of?
$48 million.
For only $38 million. Amazing. Congratulations. What a great round. Itamar, I want to start by jumping into my favorite question that I ask all of our guests, and we have been fortunate to talk to a lot of brilliant people in the category and in the space, and really helping to build a consensus around this whole Metaverse concept. And so for you, as CEO of Anzu, what is the Metaverse in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great definitions for it. One that really resonated with me is the digital twin of the physical world.
Digital twin of the physical world. See, Itamar is a great example of Israelis, very punchy and to the point. We don't waste time. So as a follow-up question, I like the simplicity of the definition, but when we think about other technologies that I know you're also looking at, for example, generative AI, blockchain, and so on and so forth, how do you think these type of technologies impact the wider space?
Yeah, and it's a great question, and there's a lot of excitement around these technologies and the use cases and the impact it can have on the metaverse and gaming. We can speak about the differences and in general about consumers. I think an important, thing to look at is why is the technology exciting versus what is the use cases of it, right? So let's take gold in California, early days of the gold rush. Many people knew that gold is going to become an important thing, but not many people knew in the early days what will be the use cases of gold. And I feel it's somehow similar to a lot of these emerging technologies. I mean, blockchain, I think, is going to be one of the biggest game changers in gaming, maybe the most important technology piece from the smartphone, who gave each one of us a gaming device in his pocket. But I think we're in the very early days of the use cases of how blockchain can help. It's for sure not what we saw in the past with doing an NFT for anything that's out there. AI is an example on the other side of where now with ChatGPT and Bird, we actually see use cases that are very relevant and concrete for how AI can help the industry. The promise of AI is very simple. There's things that machines can do better than people. It's as people focus on what we are better and give machines to do what they're better. So, speaking about the gaming world, the virtual environments and the metaverse, content creation and efficiency, and there's a lot of areas where this can be important, but I really want to focus on, put the excitement aside, what's the specific use cases and how you can apply them.
So this is a great foundation for kicking off the conversation and really better understanding the work you guys do at Anzu. So for those of us who are less familiar with Anzu, can you share with the listeners what's sort of the core mission of Anzu, and then how do you believe that the products you guys are building impacting creators, consumers, brands, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, as consumers, we interact with brands in the physical world. We see billboards, posters on buildings, logos and shirts, different forms of how we see branded content in the physical world. We're just bringing that into the gaming world. If the metaverse in gaming is the digital twin and the physical world has all these brand placements, the same should happen in gaming. I believe that people don't hate ads, people hate bad ads. When the ads are annoying and interruptive, people will use ad blockers to block these ads, and we can get as an industry to a loss where Forbes.com will block people who have ad blockers because they were annoyed about the ad experience. So for us, it's really about this like native, intrinsic, positive way of advertising, of how can we make the games look more realistic, but bring this business model of product placement and in-game advertising into the gaming world. And so that's really what we're being focused on in this business model for gaming companies, and then helping marketers reach this, massive 3-point-something billion gamers out there, with a lot of those hard to reach audiences that are spending a lot of time in video games, and there's less and less screens and digital screens to interact with them. So bringing all the advertising sophistication, there's a lot of words like programmatic advertising and attribution and measurement and targeting, and if you want, we can speak about that, connecting that world with the gaming world.
So there's obviously, I totally buy the analogy of, we have ads and billboards in physical world, and there should be, as a digital twin, ads in virtual spaces if it's gaming and other virtual environments. Having said that, obviously, there are kind of two challenges. One, people don't want to feel like they are being bombarded with ads when they interact in a virtual social space. It doesn't matter if it's in a video game that you play on PlayStation 5, or if it's on Roblox or Fortnite and so on and so forth. What is this sort of the secret sauce of what you believe you guys have been creating at Anzu over the last 6 years that allows your ads technology to be adopted by brands and large enterprises, that make it feel for the brands and the advertisers that this is going to be a pleasant experience for the consumers in these gaming environments?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, we are a tech platform, a tech enabler, and the gaming companies and the brands decide how to take advantage and use the platform. So if you're, in this case, you're actually a game developer, right? So game developers basically take our tech and decide where in their world they would want to place these product placements, billboard, posters on buildings. They're building the games, they're the producers, they know, how their art of the game is being built and where it makes sense to put branded content. And we saw in the last 5 years that when the creative execution is done right, most people will prefer and like and accept these types of advertising. We call it internally, let gamers play, because really we'll never have this like annoying pop-ups and intrusive advertising we all hate for mobile advertising. It's really part of the game world. In the early days of American sport, there were green screens in the stadium. There were no brand sponsors in the stadiums. Today, people are waiting for the Super Bowl to see the ads. So what happened in sports in the past is now happening in gaming. A lot of gaming companies are struggling to convert more players to payers, for sure, with this, financial situation these days. So our tech allows these gaming companies to become media companies. They have a lot of eyeballs to convert this into significant, sustainable, recurring revenues while keeping user experience at the front. So when you put the gamer in front and when the gaming companies decide how to incorporate advertising, this is where it gets really positive. Now, there'll always be a group of gamers who will not like the ads. And I have two things to tell you about these groups. Number one, in general, a lot of the hardcore gamers are slow to adapt to changes. When the smartphone was just launched, a lot of the hardcore gamers were saying, that's a low quality platform, we'll never leave our PC and console environment. And we see now Call of Duty being super successful in mobile. So number one, these things take time. For sure, with all the previous attempts of making in-game advertising work and some failures there, and we can speak about what's different now and why now we're confident it's going to work. The other thing, it's maybe not a very romantic answer, but it's a very practical answer. Some gamers who maybe don't like in-game advertising, the question to them is, do you prefer the alternatives? Do you prefer to pay $70 for the game? Do you prefer to have in-app purchases that without them you cannot get progress in the game? Or do you prefer intrusive advertising with pop-ups? So all in all, I think this is where we saw some success. We're working with half of the biggest gaming companies in the world, with hundreds of the biggest brands in the world. So there's massive scale here, and it's just still early days, but there's great momentum in the market.
So when you guys started the company, the gaming space was really, we were talking predominantly about mobile, console, PC, and let's call it the computing platforms. Over the past few years, especially with COVID and its impact on the internet and usage, new platforms that were around have been propelled to a whole new stratosphere of scale. If we talk about, let's define them as creator platforms, right? Or next generation platform. Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, Creative are likely the three largest of their kind. Each of them has their own components and unique pillars. Some of them are more platforms, some of them are less platforms, but they are definitely and undeniably a place where there's millions of people spend time every day, every month. And where people spend time, you will have brands and advertisers interested in being exposed to that community. What has shifted in your perception of the business you're building and the opportunity for in-game advertising as a technology? What has shifted in your perspective with the arrival or the new scale of these next generation platform versus what have you historically been focusing on, which was more PC, mobile, console?
Yeah, our mission is to empower marketers to communicate in a positive way with every gamer in every virtual environment on the planet. So as there is more consumer time spent in platforms like you mentioned, this becomes mission critical for us to be there because we want to reach every gamer wherever he is. So that's number one. Number two, because of the way our platform is built, we're like cross-platform by nature. We don't need to bet in advance on which platform will gain momentum, but to see where the eyeballs are, and then to launch new and platform support as we see where the consumers are. So for us, we don't need to do these bets in advance. I'll give you some examples. Samsung is one of our investors. I'm a big believer in cloud gaming. HTC is one of our investors. I'm a big believer in VR, less from VR short term, more from the infrastructure of VR to AR. And PayPal is an investor, I believe, in commerce and gaming. None of these things will happen today, and we don't need to take in advance decisions on where it's going. We just see where the market is, not where the trends are, and then we can follow that. So for sure, these platforms are important for us. That's number one. Number two, maybe more specific, if you are a brand who wants to reach Gen Z, there's no other place in the world to be than Roblox, right? So it's very appealing for marketers in these platforms. And COVID was an interesting, time in the sense that, okay, there is no sports games, quarantine, less out-of-home interaction. So now there is teenagers do their birthday parties inside Roblox. That's maybe the best example of a metaverse because we're taking the physical world and we're bringing a digital clone of celebrating parties in the metaverse. Or maybe some companies who did their offsites in Minecraft Island, right? And so for sure there is interest. What happened in the last few years is that marketers got really smarter on understanding what's happening with these platforms. So gaming is not only geeks locked in their basement, and Roblox is not only 13 and younger. So as marketers have this understanding of who are the audience in these platforms, they become, of course, a very attractive opportunity. And what we're trying to do is to bridge the gap between gaming and advertising in the sense of making it easy for marketers to plan activations in gaming, connect these marketing activations to a broader marketing strategy, have an ease of use and execution, and more importantly, have confidence in data on the value, on the media value, and the effectiveness, so it becomes a reoccurring play versus a one-off. This is really where we're positioned with these trends and what's happening with the metaverse.
I think another interesting thing is that when historically, or up until a few years ago, you were interacting and communicating with brand marketers about gaming, it was really mostly in the context of in-game advertising. And I think what also happened in the last few years, and, obviously I have been exposed to it directly through the work we do at Super Social, working with brands, especially on the Roblox platform, brand marketers and marketers in general started to realize that, gaming is not just an opportunity to put advertising inside virtual banners, inside games or gaming environments, but also there is an opportunity for us to build our own immersive spaces. For example, what we've launched with brands like NARS Cosmetics, which is a beauty brand, or Nike Land that launched also on Roblox with their own really, essentially a branded video game, or a video game inspired by the brand. How does that dynamic impact the type of conversation you guys are having with brands and marketers and their level of more holistic understanding of what are the opportunities and really how they perceive this space in general? What are some of the key insights and takeaways that you're hearing from brands and marketers on how do they think about this category now?
Yeah. So, let's go back a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, when we just restarted Anzu, I was asking a lot of marketers and media agencies and creative agencies, okay, so your client wants to reach gamers. What's your play? So the play was just advertise on Facebook, right? And we know that, there is an overlap between gaming communities and Facebook, but there is a lot more than that. In the past, very few brands and very few games were able to do these like bespoke, hard-coded, big activations. It was expensive, it took time. There were some, famous Nike examples, but very few brands were doing that. Then two things happened in parallel. Number one, more conversations in gaming. Gaming is moving from being a niche business to being pop culture. Everyone is a gamer. All tech giants are moving into gaming. COVID accelerates that. The Metaverse, esports. And we can do another 1-hour session just on this sentence that I said, but let's put it 1 second aside. And then our mission was really to make advertising gaming accessible and affordable. So as marketers had an easy barrier into gaming, and they saw the value from gaming, they got the appetite, let's do more in gaming. One example is American Eagle. When we met them in 2019, they never did anything in gaming. We started to work with them across different gaming activations in the beginning, lower barriers to enter gaming, up until they got excited into a place where they have, a whole practice around gaming and Metaverse and Web3, and we did some big activations in the gaming world together. And one of them was in Roblox. And so our platform just gave these marketers these insights and data on rationality, like what they saw or what they felt that gaming could be. And today it goes together. So more and more brands are building those gaming strategies. There's 2 pillars to what that gaming strategy will include. We can help with some of them, and basically you can help with the rest. So
yeah, I think the fundamental shift that I'm seeing is that, I like to say sometimes to people, if you would have come to me, Itamar, 5 years ago, and you'd have told me, Yon, in 5 years' time, you're going to build a video game of a beauty brand.
Yeah.
Right? Like 99.9% of people would have said, you're absolutely out of your mind. Like I can envision a conversation with an investor and you tell them, in 5 years, brands will build their own video game. Not put like a virtual ad in a video game, but they will build fully their own video games. That has been completely unheard of. Now it's funny because you do see that now, and suddenly some people think of it as a video game. Some people think about it as like an advert game, like an advertisement basically that is a game. Where do you think the line goes to separate between what is quote unquote an ad and what is a quote unquote a branded video game that has a gameplay loop? I'm curious because you're very much coming from the world of the ads, but you're obviously in the gaming world. You understand games, gameplay, loop, etc., etc. Is there a line that separates between the two, or it's just, as we say in Israel, the same lady with a different dress?
The most shown videos on YouTube are actually advertisements, right? So, but people see it as just great content they want to consume. And I think this is really the main point here, right? I mean, as the advertising is more sophisticated and better, people see it more as like a discovery opportunity, content they want to consume versus advertising. You know, in the past, there were these like banners in websites, and today we're all blind and we don't even see them. And even what's happening in the influencer world, it's advertisement that is packaged in a way that it's more like a social influencer, you know, communicating with his community on recommendation, which are basically advertisements. And I think this is really the key about like, it's really related to what I said in the beginning. People don't hate ads, people hate bad ads. But as the ad is more feels like content you want to consume, content that is entertaining, content that is relevant, it will actually, the advertising piece of this will actually do a better job. We have a lot of research that shows that as the content is more relevant, less intrusive, more intuitive, you'll have better attention towards the content, which will then drive better, you know, like sales and purchase and all the like the brand and sales metrics. So this is like my approach here. When we do these in-game advertising activations, yeah, on a very simple level, it's a banner that is inside a billboard, but we want to see how it can be more than that, how it can be part of a gaming strategy, a part of a gaming package, part of like making the game world more realistic. I mean, before we moved to New York, I told my son we're moving to New York. And he says, of course I know New York, I'm playing the Spider-Man game. Now, there's one big difference between the real Spider-Man game and the real, you know, in New York, and that's the advertisement, which is part of the culture, it's part of the environment, it's part of what New York represents, right? Same in Tokyo, I was there recently. So as we can be more creative and do a better job, we'll just serve our clients in a better way. And this is where the opportunity is for creative agencies, for media agencies, for tech platforms, for content creators to all work together and not treat it as like these very separate buckets of I'm doing a custom activation, I'm doing an in-game advertising, and I'm doing a programmatic activation. And this is really part of what our tech does. It helps to bring in-game advertising to mainstream of planning of omni-channel activations versus bespoke, separated one by one. Historically, the gaming industry was trying to bring advertisement and brands into their world, but they were competing against the big advertising standards, protocols, and companies versus making them their best friends and making it a big business. In other industries where television, CTV worked with the big advertising groups, it helped to accelerate the industry significantly faster.
How does the conversation between closed platforms and open platform changes how you think advertising can be deployed and scaled in virtual environments?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our values as a company are very aligned with this open metaverse, open internet, open world versus, you know, closed gardens. From the sense of data sharing and, I mean, what I mentioned before of making gaming part of a more holistic advertising funnel, by definition, it's very open to the broader industry versus looking at gaming separate and standalone. And this is where the power of gaming is going to come from. Gaming should be an advertising category, same that social, search, TV, and audio are advertising categories. We have all the ingredients, the technology, the education, the client interest to do that. By making it in like an open digital ecosystem, we'll achieve it faster, we'll achieve it better, and the sky's the limit for how meaningful this can be. Because end of the day, let's not forget, it's a business model for gaming companies, number one. And number two, we're doing that in a way that doesn't annoy gamers. So that's really what we're trying to achieve here. All the advertising piece is just the way to get there. Because what makes more sense for a gamer to sponsor the game or a big brand to sponsor the game from, you know, deep pockets and et cetera, et cetera?
It makes a lot of sense, and I don't think that the jury is still out there in terms of how these platforms closed or open are actually going to interact with one another. Everyone dreams about this open metaverse, and all your data is going to flow around. You're going to carry your assets from one place to another, right? You see an ad as a portal and you go through it and boom, you just went from Roblox to Fortnite. I mean, these are all wonderful dreams that may or may not happen. There is too many complexities there. The more interesting and more concrete question I have for you, as it pertains to a platform like Roblox, for example, we've seen recently Roblox launch their own immersive ads business, which I think is great for the ecosystem in general. You said it's another business model for developer. It's another way for advertisers. What is sort of the approach that you guys are taking with regards to how Anzu can play within the Roblox ecosystem, knowing that it's a closed platform, but it's also a platform that Roblox doesn't prevent from different ecosystem players and stakeholders to come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting here is actually the creators. You know, I spent in the last 4 years a lot of time with creators, and there is like so much talent out there. But then on the other side, you don't see a lot of, you know, bigger organizations. I mean, you're maybe a very unique case in this environment. You're VC funded, and then you have a bigger team. You have a lot of executives from the gaming world. You can take some best practices from AAA gaming, bring them into the metaverse, Roblox, Fortnite, you name it. Most talented content creators don't do that. And I think they should do that. And I think there should be significantly more VC money and significantly more resources at the hand of these content creators to just do more of what they're doing. For more people, I believe Roblox should be a business and not a hobby. And I think we are one way to empower that by bringing this technology that creators can use to, you know, build this business model and have the control of how exactly they want to do it. There's other ways of how to do that. I believe in the diversity of business models, and then each game developer, content creator finding the right mix for him. Maybe let's take a step back for gaming. There's prepaid games, you pay $70 for a game. There is a subscription model, like a Netflix for gaming model, what Xbox and Game Pass are trying to do. There is in-app purchases. There is hard-coded sponsorships. There is in-game advertising. There's different business models. And I think this diversity for indie developers, for AAA publishers, this is really the key for each one building the mix of which combination makes sense for him. But as an industry, we need to appreciate and recognize the talent that sits in this content creative world and empower them to do what they do better. And this is like very exciting stuff. It's still very early days, but I'm very bullish of like how big and meaningful this industry can be. And by the way, Roblox are a great pioneer here. And I remember, Yon, you told me when Fortnite Island just started, hey man, you should take a look at this. And then I remember our conversation very, very early days about these opportunities more broadly in the metaverse. It's all happening now. This is the tipping point, and this is exciting.
It is, which is a great switching opportunity to, you guys just secured a 48 million Series B round, which is an incredible amount of capital. What are you most excited about for the next 12 months?
Great question. So, you know, a while ago, ironSource and Unity did a pretty big merge, right? ironSource is one of the leading companies for mobile advertising, those banners and videos, ads in mobile game. And Unity Engine is maybe one of the biggest platforms for this engine for developers to create games in like better, more efficient, etc. This is the first big deal of advertising in gaming. And I think in the next 12 months, we're going to see a lot of different types of deals between big gaming groups and big advertising groups. Recently, Dentsu announced a partnership with Roblox. That's another indication. And there's just a lot more out there. There is the recent news on the Apple new products. When I heard that, two things came into my mind. Number one, Apple is now a gaming company. Let's call it what it is. And number two, AR is maybe now find the route infrastructure and environment to thrive and maximize this opportunity. So we're going to see tremendous deals in this gaming and advertising intersection. Two multi-billion-dollar businesses that for too long were too separated, too isolated, spoke a different language. No, advertising is not the bad guys who want to ruin the art of the game. And no, gamers are not geeks locked in their basement. We're going to see, like, we have now the foundation to do a lot of deals in overlap and touch point between these two mega industries. And, you know, I'm preaching for this for the last 5-6 years. You are as well from different perspective. It's all going to connect in the next 12 to 24 months.
100%. I do feel like we're at an inflection point where the whole perception of what is a video game, I think in 10 years' time, video games will be defined in a much more broad way. And I think we're seeing those signs now, regardless of what platform you're talking about. Itamar, this has been long overdue. I'm so excited we finally had a chance to do this podcast, and so much more to come. So thanks for joining me today.
Of course, thanks for having me, and let's do this more often.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the Metaverse.